And we'll just need one moment as we set up for a quick little social media filming.
I'll let you guys read the joke. I haven't been set up on the mic yet, so. And I'm setting up this iPad because my wife told me to record it. So. You missed it.
No, he will need one. Please give a warm welcome for Vipul Tiwari.
Oh, how are you guys doing? It's been a busy day, huh? A lot of blockchain, tech talk, moving fast here. I got 20 minutes, so this is not working well. Here we go. So I'm here to talk about blockchain specifically, but also talk about emerging tech in the supply chain space. I come from a technology background. A little bit about me. I've been in consulting space for about 16 years. It's my son. Can't go through all of it, but he's growing fast. I've got a bunch of Bitcoins. We'll see where that goes. It's not going the right direction right now. So I'm like, I don't know if you can go to college, buddy. So just planning ahead. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. So if you want to kind of connect with me later on, feel free to do that. If I'm too loud, signal, tell me, because I'm kind of loud. Am I? Okay. I'm good. We'll talk quickly, 20 minutes. So we'll talk about supply chain specifically, where that industry is headed. We'll talk about what some of the emerging technologies are in the space. Some of the other areas I want to kind of touch on are some of the use cases. So when we think about blockchain, people say, oh, it's out there. We don't know if it actually exists. There is actually some practical applications today that are happening leveraging blockchain. So I'll talk about those as well. So supply chain industry. Gartner does a study on an annual basis on the top 25 supply chain companies in the industry. And this is kind of their results from 2017. If you look at the supply chain industry, I mean, imagine back in the day, you wanted to buy something, you had to go to the store, pick it up from a retailer, come back home. You didn't like it, you had to drive back to the retailer to return it. Today, you order things from Amazon. How many of you ordered things from Amazon here? Like everybody, right? How many of you used Alexa to order things? Yeah, just voice-based, right? So what I'm trying to show here is it's no longer linear as it used to be, right? It used to be very straightforward. Unless you go to the distributor, you can't get it as a consumer. Today, you can order it from the warehouse. You can directly get it from the manufacturer. So it's getting very complex. And as that happens, what supply chain industries are doing is they're focusing on reducing supply chain costs and exceeding customer expectations. So this chart is useful here. Keep this in mind. As companies try to improve their performance, they've got some areas they've got to focus on. And some of those are the evolving areas of supply chain. So keep that in mind as we go to the next slide here. So emerging technologies, what are the emerging technologies? You've heard all day this conference, you probably heard of predictive analytics, right? You heard of robotics, you heard of IoT. Now, IoT is already a big player, right? As you can see, so the adoption rate, if you look at this chart, it shows you what are the adoption rates today. And they're kind of high, and guess what? There's a 5-year CAGR, it's still gonna be better. But guess what? Predictive is nowhere close. We still got a lot of room to play here for predictive. And look at the other ones, robotics, inventory. So some of these players, when you say robotics, don't just think of robots. I'm talking about automation from a digital perspective. So there's a bunch of money that is being invested, and this was a study done by, I believe it was Deloitte and CIO.com that talked to supply chain leaders and said, in the next year or so, they're going to invest 10 million plus in emerging tech. So there's a lot of money that is being put into emerging technologies. Now, some of the big areas, as you can see, everything we can put sensors on, everything we can make an IoT device, you're going to get data. And pretty soon what's going to happen is devices are going to have so much data, we don't know what to do with that data, how to analyze that data. And that's what we're doing with big data. And that's where the predictive analytics piece comes in. So some technologies now you're like wondering, why is blockchain not on this picture? Like, isn't that an emerging technology? I mean, well, it's not commercialized yet. It hasn't been adopted by the companies from a commercial perspective. And I'll talk about that next. Blockchain market definitely has a growth potential. Gartner did a study, and they've published some results. If you go to the study, you'll see the link here. By 2030, so you see two bars that I want you to focus on here. The green bar, which is B2B, between companies, and the orange bar, which is digital cash. So I know you guys talked about digital coins today, ICOs today. So those are the two major industries. So you think, why B2B, right? The concept of blockchain doesn't really apply internal to a company. It works well when you're working across companies, between players. So that's why Gartner's saying, that's where most of the traction is going to be. And we'll talk about some of the emerging technologies in blockchain where you start seeing certain consortiums being formed. And when those consortiums, so let's say Walmart decides to form a consortium, or IBM decides to form a consortium, well, guess what's going to happen? There's going to be a lot of B2B transactions that can then be automated through IoT and smart contracts. And I know you guys talked about that today. So I'm just throwing out these buzzwords, I know, without really going into details here. But feel free to, we can talk about this after the talk here. So I'll let you read that. How many of you have invested in an ICO? Yeah, see some hands here, right? And you believe that use case, that's probably why you invested, right? But you've seen a lot of ICOs go bust, right? How many people saw, how many companies are out there that are just trying to make quick cash, right? Right? And guess what? Here's another set of data. So 26,000 blockchain projects launched on GitHub in 2016. 92% are dead, right? That is the reality, right? But that's the case. I mean, this is what's happening. So you got to be careful out there. It's a hot concept. It's a hot technology. And these are all the players in the industry at the moment. I've kind of thrown out an infographic just so that you can relate to some of these. But you got to be careful out there. You can't really just start, you can't publish a use case white paper and say, here's a concept, and we're going to have blockchain, and please give me money. So I'm just making sure that you guys are aware. So that's kind of the market of blockchain. Now, what does the landscape look like of blockchain, right? You need to understand that blockchain is all it is, and I think the last presenter did a great job. He talked about the SHA-256 algorithm and how that actually works, and the tokenization of it. But within that, right, if you were to go today, say, I want to implement a blockchain concept, you start from an infrastructure perspective, and you understand what kind of platform you have. So this is where you're going to hear all the words, right? The Ripple side of things, the Hyperledger, the Bitcoin. And then you pick a consensus mechanism. What kind of consensus do you want? Do you want a proof of work? Do you want a proof of stake? Do you want a round-robin consensus? Some are federated consensuses, and some are node-to-node. Unless certain nodes approves it, then the next node approves it, then the next node approves it, it's not going to go anywhere. Once you have that, then you have the applications that come in. So is it about digital currencies? Is it about smart contracts? Is it about accounting? What do you really want to do with it? And on top of that sit the industry consortiums, right? So Hyperledger, I'm just going to take that one for example. It's an IBM and Linux Foundation came together for Hyperledger. And they built this consortium between these companies. And what they're going to do is in that network, they're going to trust each other from a network contract perspective. So now you're going to have smart contracts that can be executed without a human intervention. And we'll talk about that next year. Microsoft, big player. IBM, the other one, right? Going head to head. They're coming out with Hyperledger, more consortium-based, consensus-based within. They're bringing it more user-based. They want you to develop a distributed application on top of it. They want anybody to be able to plug into their system. They can leverage Ethereum as a platform, Hyperledger, Quorum, Corda, whatever they want. So these are the two players that are coming out there. We'll go into more detail on this. I don't know how much time I have. I haven't seen the flag yet, so I'm good. But who likes mangoes? It's kind of everybody likes mangoes. So Walmart and IBM got that. And they said, everybody loves mangoes. Let's do a study on that. And what they focused on was food contamination. So I don't know if you knew this. It's a $55 to $90 billion industry where food illnesses come in. I mean, people get sick, they don't go to work, and then they've got medical costs, you've got death-related costs. That's how bad of an industry this is. And if you look at some of these numbers where 600 million people fall ill every year because of contaminated food. How many of you have like gotten sick in the past with eating the wrong food? Right, that happens. Well, there we go. So guess what they did? They decided to come together and focus on two things, Chinese pork and US mangoes. And guess what they found out? If they were to find out the tracing of the food origin, let's say I want to go to Walmart, pick up a mango and say, where did I get this mango? Good luck, right? I mean, it's going to say, yeah, it was grown in China somewhere. It was organic. That's it. You're not going to know the temperature it was put at. You're not going to know the region it was put at. You're not going to know this route it took to get here, how long it was sitting on the shelf. You don't know any of that information. So what they're doing is they're trying to implement blockchain across this whole concept. And guess what? They were able to trace in 2.2 seconds what the origin of the food was. So you're going to be able to walk into Walmart, scan it with your phone, and be able to say, what route did it take? You're going to be able to tell 50 plus parameters about what you're going to buy. And guess what? If they want to do a recall, real quick, they can do that. Same thing would apply to even automation, right? Remember how many cars you have the wrong airbags installed, and now they have to recall the cars. I'm just throwing it out there, right? I love how you laugh every 1 minute about this. So this is, again, a linear view. You know, we can leverage IoT. This is where IoT and blockchain come together. So keep in mind, blockchain is just a distributed ledger. It by itself might not provide value, but bringing it together with the emerging technologies does provide value. And then when you have a consortium where you can trust each other, you can throw in smart contracts. Okay, this order match, the pricing match, the weight match, the temperature match, guess what? We're going to transfer the amount. Now you don't need a human person every time there needs to be a payment made. And that's where smart contracts come in. So I was joking with my wife about this. I mean, by the time my kid grows up, he's going to be like, I want blockchain oranges, right? You're going to have organic, you're going to have regular, then you're going to have regular and blockchain, then you're going to have organic and blockchain, and you're going to have $5 more. I mean, I'm just saying that coming up. She's going to laugh again. Oh, let me see if I can go back here. There we go. Oh, this one. Okay. So I was telling you guys there's some companies that are already doing this, right? Chronicle, the company that's out there, it's based out of San Francisco. I know the CEO very well. She's actually giving a talk at another place right now. I was supposed to be with her, but then I was like, I can't give out on Harvard. I got to be here. So, but IoT products, they sell out some IoT products, and guess what they do? They attach them to devices. So now you can walk into a store and say, is this a legit Nike product, or am I buying a fake? Let's say you go to a store and you try to buy a Prada bag. You don't really know if it's real or fake. Next time you have a friend who says, oh, I gotta look at my new purse, and you're like, let me find out. So they do some of that. Then they also focus on pharmaceuticals. So pharmaceutical drugs, the industry is, if you're buying Tylenol at a Walgreens and it's not kept at a certain temperature, that drug is going to waste. It has to be kept at a certain temperature throughout its process. And a lot of times what happens is in delivery and distribution, that concept goes out the window. So what they're doing is they're allowing you to track temperature data end to end for any product. And guess what? Now you can tell if you're actually, so when you're at a store, you can actually use your phone and track it and say, is this a product that is going to have a lifespan for the next week or two? Is the expiry date even actually accurate anymore? So next one, who likes diamonds? I'm assuming everybody here likes diamonds. So look at the smiles that are coming out here. Company doing that on insurance fraud. A lot of the rich and famous are like, I'm missing my diamond necklace. It was worth millions of dollars. And guess what? That's a $45 billion pound industry, insurance fraud. And guess what Everledger is doing? Everledger is saying, I'm going to take a diamond and I'm going to measure 72 different aspects of it. And I'm going to put it on a blockchain. And guess what? Once it's on the chain, they know exactly what happened to it, wherever it goes. And when it's in the store, you're not walking in the store and looking at that card. How many of you have bought rings, like where they look at the card and like, oh, it's 3.2 carat, I think. And you don't know. But now you can do that with your phone. You'll be able to track that all the way back. So we're going to read this out loud here. Blockchain will serve as a proof of existence. Ownership, so once you have it, it's written in stone here. Proof of transaction, that it was transacted from someone else to you. And it's proof of exchange, proof of value. So this is a one way, and this is a very good industry that they're focusing on. They're London-based. Read about them as you get a chance. So I'm going to kind of close here. I've got 1 minute. Some of the benefits of supply chain. Obviously, there's going to be trust aspect of it. I mentioned the efficiency aspect of it. As we build a consortium where we can trust each other, there's not going to be any more handwork that's needed. Authenticity in terms of, now you're getting a product that's actually true, a shoe that's actually a Nike shoe versus, are you getting a real diamond versus a fake diamond? And then, this is 2 other areas that I wanted to kind of highlight. The accounting system. I mean, imagine all these big 4 companies. All they do is audit all day long. Now you don't need that kind of an audit. If you work in IT audit, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then reconciliation systems. Monthly reconciliations take people 2 to 3 weeks sometimes. That doesn't need to be there anymore. And obviously, without the emerging technologies, this doesn't really work as well. I'm going to leave a couple more slides. I've got 30 seconds, I think. A lot of companies are playing with this concept, right? And I want to kind of highlight some of them. One being, look at the proof of ownership of digital content. Now you can have a song that you created, you put it on the web, and it stays with your name on it. It's not like because I downloaded it, now I own it. There's no concept of pictures. I mean, you take pictures and you put it out there and somebody else downloads it and it's their picture. With blockchain, that's what they're trying to change, some of these companies over there. Another one I kind of wanted to highlight was home automation, right? So anyways, I mean, there's a bunch of, take a look at that. The slides are out there. They'll share this with you. And I didn't forget to finish this. Will you want to be part of the blockchain revolution, right? I think that's the next concept because imagine blockchain applies to all these industries. And it's not about just blockchain. It's about all the emerging tech. So think of it as a holistic view. Emerging technologies are here to stay. And I think that we all should be part of it. Think of it as the internet, right? When the internet came, I know some of us were very young and we didn't really know what was going on. But I think this is an opportunity for all of us to be part of this again. And I don't think we should miss out on this. Thank you.